George.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday Morning Golf Wrap, a very special Monday Morning Golf Wrap, as the Godfather has been sent back to Earth. I have been in golf heaven for the last several days. It has been my distinct pleasure and opportunity to visit Augusta National and actually be there for the 2015 Masters, the 79th edition thereof. And again, as I mentioned live yesterday during our Augusta coverage, which was live, that I appreciate Callaway Golf for all they did as far as setting this up. And it was an opportunity and experience that cannot be matched ever again, I would imagine. Wanted to kind of give you a recap of what happened. First off, we start at the Godfather played a round at Eastlake, and that was last week, and had the opportunity to play with several guys from Golfsmith, several guys from Callaway Golf, and what a marvelous opportunity that was. What a marvelous adventure experience. Of course, when we check in, they, of course, sign you a locker, and I brought back a little example of how they treat you at Eastlake. Each of our lockers were given to us, and then inside the locker there was a Eastlake cap, and it already had your name stitched on the back of it. So that is just a nice touch of hospitality there. And they want to thank you for playing Eastlake, and they do so from the time you walk in the door until the time you end up departing. Interestingly, it rained on us quite a lot. We even went through an electrical storm, which is somewhat unusual for this time of the year. But we got through hole number 7. It started raining. And, of course, you are walking, and thankfully you don't have to carry your bag. But it is quite a hilly course, much like Augusta National. You're not quite, by watching it on coverage during the Tour Championship presented by Coca-Cola, you don't really get an aspect of the amount of elevation change at Eastlake, just like you don't have that opportunity of watching the Masters and from Augusta National and know how much elevation change there is there also. So with the rain coming down, and then, of course, the lightning started, and we went into an hour-and-a-half delay, excuse me, which is really tough at Eastlake because they take you into the members grill, and then you have to sit there and try, of course, their potato chips. You have to try their deviled eggs. You have to try the fried pickles. So there's a lot of things you have to do if you're going to be stuck into a men's grill at Eastlake Golf Club. And then, of course, we went back out on the course and finished up our round, which was, it continued to rain, but there was no more lightning. And the Godfather, I will say, played pretty good on the front, struggled to get back going on the back. I did start with a par on 10, but however, had a club slippage problem on one hole and a foot slippage problem on a second hole. Both of those ended up in double bogey. And with the greens, they weren't quick. They weren't super fast. They were rolling 10. But, however, in another month, they will have the Eastlake greens easily at 13 on the stimp meter. The course, the zoysia grass in the fairways, absolutely marvelous. Nothing like hitting your ball. Even we picked up a couple of mud balls, if you want to call them that, at Eastlake. They just referred to them as having debris on your ball. But, however, you pick up a couple of them because simply the zoysia grass does not roll. You do not get any rollout with your drives. I don't care how low you hit it. I don't care how high you hit it. You're not going to pick up any roll because they start at this time of the year actually cutting the fairways, the zoysia grass fairways. They cut them back toward the tee boxes, much like Augusta National. So thusly, when your ball hits, it is grabbing the grain of the zoysia grass and basically stops the ball right in its tracks. So you don't get that rollout opportunity, even on the downhill fairways, folks. So when you see the pros out there, you're gonna see their balls in positions, and you're gonna go, wow, that was a good hit. He must have got a lot of roll. Tour Championship, there's no roll. You don't see it. It's not going to happen. They set these fairways up. They purposely mow the grasses in different angles in the fairway just to get the ball to react in different ways. Would you or could you hit particular spots? And you'll see the pros out there trying to do what they can to pick up little slots in the fairways, much like the slots that we talked about at Augusta National. So to wrap up East Lake, we had a spectacular day. I want to thank Gary, my caddy. He was a satellite tour player for about 20 years. He now caddies at places like East Lake, Seminole, and also up north at a very prestigious club in New York. But however, Gary was extremely knowledgeable. And Jeff, interestingly, the caddies kind of watch you. Of course, they're looking at what clubs you hit, how far you hit them on the driving range. And then there's the caddies in the group, and they evidently make a little wager on their players.
That's good. So how did they do on you? They make this wager before they see you play.
My caddy won front, back, and overall.
Oh, did he?
He was a happy camper. He actually.
So does that mean the other guys looked at you and said, "This guy can't play"?
Well, we all gave our handicaps, and Richard.
Which one did you give him? I hate to interrupt you, but
9.
Oh, you gave him the 9.
I gave him the 9.
Ah.
Richard with Golfsmith, vice president of Golfsmith. He was the quote unquote coordinator. I will say that because there's no betting at Bushwood. Okay,
right?
Got it.
Yeah.
So he was the coordinator, and so as you told him your handicap, which I showed him my card and my handicap at 9.6, he then cut it in half for everybody. So there were several guys playing at 2, 3, and I was playing at 4. And when it ended up, the scores were so high, the handicaps never came into play. There were 2 of us that shot in the 70s, and then there were 2 guys in the 80s, and then the rest were in the 90s.
Wow.
And so, and these are collegiate players. These are players that have experience, and they were taken aback about how, although at East Lake, everything's just basically right out in front of you. But there's the little nuances, much like Augusta National, that if you don't hit it in the right spot, you're not going to be able to get anywhere close to the pin, nor if you don't hit the right spot on the green, you're not going to have a real makeable putt. So case in point, number 2, the par 3, it was playing for us. We did play the tips, and it was playing for us 184 yards. However, it was downwind, and I ended up hitting 7-iron from 184 and flew the pin about 15 feet behind up the hill. And so I've had a similar putt to this at East Lake, and I remember it being extremely quick. And I actually ended up leaving my first putt downhill, breaking left to right. I actually left it 3 feet short. And so my caddy came up to me and goes, Gary says, Mr. Honeycutt, he goes, they're not going to be as quick as they are for Tour Championship, but just go ahead and ramp them. And I went on to make the 3-footer. Started off par, 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 then ended up bogeying number 6, which was a mistake on my part. And then finished par, par, par. And so we it was just an absolutely marvelous day. But let's move on. We left East Lake and then went down to Augusta National and, of course, visiting for the 2015 Masters. The Masters itself was, I've heard comments today about it being boring, about it kind of being a runaway. In no way, shape, or form was it boring, folks. In no way, shape, or form. Jordan Spieth ended up having, wire-to-wire winner. Again, this has not been done since Raymond Floyd in 1976. He was the youngest player to post a 64. He was the youngest player or the second youngest player to shoot 18 under par. It was absolutely spectacular performance by one Jordan Spieth. If you saw him out on the golf course, him and his caddy Mike, they were getting along well, swimmingly well. They were talking about every shot. They were talking about every place that they wanted to leave themselves. Interestingly, pick up on that. Several times, Jordan, during his first round, his second round, and his fourth round, there was a lot of discussions about, if I miss this, where are we going to leave ourselves? And that is something every golfer ought to think about, is you're not going to hit the perfect shot every time. So thusly, if you hit a poor shot or you don't quite execute what you're looking to do, have an escape plan. Know where this thing's going to go, or in a general proximity of where it's going to go. Jordan Spieth did that. And with his course management and his solid play, he ends up winning the 79th Masters. It was a spectacular day on Sunday, of course, with some of the names that were creeping up the leaderboard. In the general consensus at Augusta, I will tell you, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was that there was hundreds to thousands of people hoping that Mickelson would pick up another green jacket. And so it was primarily, you could tell when Mickelson teed off every day. You could be down at Amen Corner. You could be at 13, 14. You could be overwatching 16. It didn't matter. If Phil made a par putt, you heard a roar.
Yeah, and watching it on TV, we noticed Spieth backing off of, I forget which hole it was. It might have been 13.
Yesterday.
Yeah, and when they heard the big roar, and we were sitting there saying what happened, and Busaroni said, I bet you Phil must have knocked it in out of the sand, and that's exactly what he had done.
On 18.
But, yeah, and I'd like to say something about, to the people that thought this was boring. I don't see how you could think having Phil playing good again, Tiger back in the mix again, Rory playing well, Hideki Matsuyama showing what he's could possibly do, and Spieth winning his first major at the Masters was, I just thought it was an incredible Masters myself. I didn't get to watch so much of it. Most of it I spent here behind the glass producing our coverage, but I did go out and sit in the room there and watch a little bit of it on TV. So I thought it was really good.
Well, if you look at the names, Jeff, that were in this thing, of course, Jordan ends up winning at 18 under par by 4 shots over Mickelson and Rose, who tie for second at 14 under par. If Mickelson made the comment, I heard him comment yesterday that if you'd have told him at the beginning of the week that you're going to shoot 14 under par, and he would have taken that all day, because 14 under would have won this thing.
Yeah.
If not for Jordan Spieth going out in round 1 shooting 8 under par, round 2 shooting 6 under par, then round 3 and round 4 shooting 2 under par. And we were collectively, of our group, we were saying, what does Jordan need to do today? And interestingly, all those golfers that really have some knowing of the game of golf, it was the general consensus, if he shoots 2 under par, he wins.
Yeah.
Because that means that he's not giving it away like he did last year. If we remember, he gets to hole number 8 last year, he had a 3-shot lead. And between hole 8 and hole 11, he had lost that lead, and he would never be able to regain himself, his composure, his emotions, and get back into it. And, of course, Bubba ends up shooting even par and wins the event. So this year it was the general opinion of everybody Sunday morning that Spieth would collapse, that he would have that fall off. And I go back to Mickelson's comment. It's interesting, if you're on the other side of the property at Augusta National, there is just such an emotional attachment with Mickelson. It's throughout the patrons. There's no difference. It's Orientals, Europeans, Americans, it doesn't matter. They are just ecstatic. I mean, making a par putt, you hear the little clap, you know?
Yep.
Mickelson makes a par putt, you hear a roar. You think he's eagling every hole out there.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then the other player that you could tell when he missed a birdie putt, or you can tell when he made a par putt, and that's Tiger Woods. Interestingly, you hear the awe. And it's amazing how many acres that awe travels when Tiger's on the course. it is deathly silent if Mickelson is not on the golf course.
It's amazing.
It's eye-opening. One other thing, too, I want everybody to pick up on. Let's go down through the leaderboard here real quick, and I'm sure, unless you've been under a rock, you know Jordan played extremely well, finished 18 under par. Mickelson and Rose at 14 under. Rory McIlroy comes back with 6 under par on the 4th round and really puts himself back into this, and everybody's going, well, you know, he played well on Sunday, and that's why he ends up finishing 4th. No, folks, he shot 4 under on Saturday. And that 4 under on Saturday was a phenomenal round of golf. If you have the opportunity to catch the highlights, that's where really he came back after starting 1 under on the first day, and then he shot 1 under on the second day. But then on Saturday to shoot 4 under, that was a great round of golf. And then you look at, in 5th place, Hideki Matsuyama, who started 1 under on day 1, 2 under on day 2, 2 under on day 3, 6 under on day 4 to finish at 11 under par. Ian Poulter, Paul Casey, Dustin Johnson, Charlie Hoffman, and Zach Johnson all end up tied for 6th and 9th, respectively. Now, I want to bring up Ian Poulter. Ian Poulter goes out on day 1 and shoots 1 over par. He then goes out on Saturday and shoots even. Now, Jordan, of course, had kind of set the bar between the -8 and the -6 on the first 2 days. That's 14 under par, folks. However, the cut line, just because of the number of players that were under par, was being moved between even and +2, even and +2. So it was the likes of like a Ian Poulter at +1 that just barely got into the cut line. And interestingly, Ian then goes out on Saturday, shoots 5 under par. And he turns around and repeats that on Sunday at Augusta National. 5 under par. 10 under over the last 2 days. Phenomenal playing by one Ian Poulter. And I tell you, you see it in his walk, you see it in his step, and you see it in his swing. This young man is tired of people saying that he can't play unless he's in a Ryder Cup. He's made a resurgence, no doubt about it. Whether it's his clothes, whether it's his shoes. And by the way, speaking of shoes, Jeff, I'm sorry, I just got to bring this up. Keegan Bradley was...
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Keegan Bradley's wearing the Air Jordans. Yeah. Okay? First off, it looks like he's wearing them for elevation as far as height. Okay? They've got the tallest soles on these shoes I've ever seen in my life. They're patent leather. They're bright red. Why they couldn't come out with another color for him, I don't know. He wore the same pair all 4 days. So, and I have to say, just my personal opinion, this is just the Godfather's opinion, they are the ugliest doggone golf shoes I ever laid my eyes on. I mean, it looks like you go out and play, you know, it's like the Caddyshack. You go out and play 18 holes and take them home and smoke the bejesus out of it.
Yeah.
You know, these things, you take them out, you play 18 holes on them, and then you go shoot hoops with the buds.
Yep.
That's exactly what they look like. I mean, they're above the ankle, none. I mean, I just had to bring that up. I'm sorry. Dustin Johnson, another good tournament for Dustin Johnson. He ends up, of course, at 9 under par. He shoots 2 under day 1, 5 under day 2. And Saturday watching him, for whatever reason, he did not have the confidence standing over many of his approach shots and many of his putts. He seemed to be questioning the mark. He seemed to be questioning the line, and he had a rough time. He was hitting a lot of putts too far, Jeff, and that was he looked like he had lost the groove on being able to determine the speed at Augusta National. Now, you heard Tiger say on Friday evening that he hopes that they would speed up the greens because he thought they were running a little bit slow and a little bit soft. Well, Augusta and the powers to be there at Augusta National, they kind of listened to that and they took that to heart. Saturday, these greens were lit up. They were lit up. And I don't mean excessively fast. I don't mean uncontrollable fast. They were just running, obviously, to the naked eye quicker than they were on Friday. And so we saw a lot of players that had made the cut give them credit. They made the cut at Augusta National, but we saw them struggle during that Saturday round, and Dustin Johnson was one of those. He ends up shooting 3 under on Sunday to finish at -9, as I mentioned. Charlie Hoffman, who started this event 5 under and 4 under to go 9 under par, after, of course, he's chasing down Jordan Spieth, who is setting the 18-hole record, the 36-hole record at 14 under. He's setting all these records, and Charlie Hoffman was doing everything he could just to try to keep up. He ends up on Saturday shooting 1 under and then +2 on Sunday. And I saw Charlie, you could tell that he had the taste of maybe winning a Masters, but you could see through most of his round on Sunday, he just could not finish it off. He wanted to make sure he got in the top 10, of course, for an invite back. And actually this year it works out to be tied 12th, got back into the Masters for next year. But, again, you could just see. And then the old Zach Johnson, unbelievable. I mean, this guy, he goes out first day even. Okay, so he was right there at that cut line, and then he goes -4, -4. He just did the Zach thing.
Yep.
You know, it's good. It's interesting to see him now without the Seymour putter. You have to take your binoculars and look out there and say, oh, that's Zach, because you don't recognize the putter. It's interesting. I heard hundreds of people comment on that.
Huh.
So, again, spectacular event. The golf course, I made comment of this yesterday live on the afternoon live broadcast from the Masters, is the golf course, you hear it every year. The golf, the Masters, the chairman, whoever is making the press conferences, they comment that the course is in the best shape it's ever been. You know, we have the best field there's ever been. No. It goes on and on and on. Folks, I have to tell you, I've been to Augusta many, many, many times. And this year, without doubt, Augusta National was in the best shape, condition-wise, grass, grain, greens, everything that I have ever witnessed. And it's going to be tough for them to even get close or top this in years to come. The azaleas were in full bloom. The dogwoods were in full bloom. And it was just heaven on earth, no doubt about it. There were several things that, as you get around in the history of Augusta, that the players extremely respect as they're going around. But one thing is they, interestingly, they when they work out the course management aspects for their rounds, folks, I want you to remember this. There's several crosswalks, normally 2 on each golf hole. And they actually plan their yardages and their flight of their ball, and they think about these crosswalks. Years past, that's always been a concern, a big-time concern, because these crosswalk areas get muddy. They get kind of trampled on, and it was probably the only ugly spots on the golf course during the televised portions. I mean, as a patron, you're there, you just deal with it. I mean, your shoes get muddy and all that, but they're hurting hundreds of thousands of people through these areas. This year, they did something interesting. There was some, as it was put to me, crushed gravel, crushed sand, painted green, that was placed into the crosswalk areas. And when you stepped on it, it felt like you were stepping on a AstroTurf mat. And interestingly, if a player got into the crosswalk boundary, there's little black lines that run across the fairways, just painted on the ground that you see. They're absolutely perfectly horizontally painted. There's no wavering. I mean, it's measured out. They're the exact width, starting at one side and going all the way to the other. It's spectacular, the detail that they do at Augusta National. But if the player was to enter the crosswalks, they get free relief. Think about that. They get free relief. Now, you won't see it on the television portion of it, but that's what happens. We saw 2 individuals just yesterday during the final round. They ended up hitting their balls. They didn't catch it quite enough, and these were both on par 5s, and they ended up rolling into the crosswalk area. And, of course, they have these areas roped off while the players are in transit or are hitting their shot. And so they kept everybody away. And then, of course, the player comes down, gets relief. There is an official, believe me, There is not a situation that occurs at Augusta National that there is not an official there, whether it's Mike Davis or anybody else. There is an official there within a minute. And I just wonder what the penalty is if they're not there within the minute. But they come there, they get the ruling, they show them where they need to take relief, and then it is a drop, and they are playing live from that point. So not to have to hit off the crosswalks. Just a little tidbit of information, maybe as an update from Augusta National. The bunkers, phenomenal. I mean, you don't think about the massiveness of the bunkers. Like, for example, number 18, the 2 bunkers on the left, you easily could land a 737 in either one of them. It is that big. And then you go stand beside the bunker and look at the bottom end of it where the balls normally collect if they go into that bunker on 18. And you realize they have no clue where the green is, folks. They're aiming at the crow's nest. That's their aim point. And so they are just hoping to get it if they're going to move it left or right, which, by the way, Jeff, every player out there plays a fade.
Yeah, I heard you mention that.
Every player out there plays a fade. Now, when they need to turn it over, they turn it over. They play a draw if they're right-handed or left-handed. But primarily, I would say if they go out and shoot 68, and of those 68 shots, there's 20 putts, 21 putts, 22 putts. You start doing the math, I guarantee you 98% of their shots, approach shot, drives, I don't care what it is, are left to right. Mickelson, right to left. I saw Graham McDowell hook one on one, his tee shot yesterday morning in the final round, and he turned it over. And he had to bite his lip. He almost said a dirty word. He did not want to turn it over.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing with Jamie Donaldson. And Jamie hit this peeler down the tree line. It started folding back in and landed right in the center cut on top of the fairway. And then G-Mac turns it over, and he's probably 10 yards short of Jamie. So these guys play a fade. We watched 16 on Saturday. Collectively, between all of us that were attending, we were kind of taking notes. And we saw all the players come through there, including the marker, Jeff Knox. And everybody, to a player on 16, back right pin position, they hit a fade. There was not one ball turned over right to left. And so you're sitting there as an amateur going, oh, man, I'd love to hit a hook. I need to do anything I can to hit a hook. Well, this guy right here, I can tell you this, starting after this Masters, I'm tired of that. I'm going to go ahead and play a fade. I'm just going to go ahead and hit that shot. You know, that way I set up, I can take a portion of the golf course out of play, and if I turn it over, it's going to go straight. So I've come to this conclusion as an amateur golfer. I'm going to quit fighting the fade, and I'm going to go ahead and play with it. So these guys were proof to me. It's amazing when you get out there, because pay attention, take some binoculars with you if you have the rare opportunity to go, and check out the bags of these players. It will amaze you, the age of some of the clubs. It will amaze you. Henrik Stenson, for example, playing with several generation irons, you know, and Callaway comes out with fantastic stuff, but he's 7 generations back with his irons. You take his Frankenwood, that is 5 generations back. These guys, when they find a club, and Hugh's talked about this 100 times, these guys, when they find a club that just absolutely fits perfectly in their hands, they absolutely stick to it. Another thing, note for everybody too, is all these guys have their grips built up. Every one of them. They are just, you take their grips out and they look twice the size of a normal grip.
Wow. I'd like to point out something that Biggsy caught in watching the Masters is that Tiger's shoes were older generation shoes.
That's correct.
Apparently his swing coach had him go back to play the older shoes.
That's right.
And Biggsy had contacted Nike and said, "What's up with that?" And they said, "Good catch, Biggsy." Yeah, and then gave him the story of why he did it.
Right. And Tiger just there was too much give, from what I hear. There was too much give in the new soft model. And so he had to go back to that solid platform sole in order that he knew that when he went back on the inside of that right foot, that it was going to stay there and not push down on the sole.
Yeah.
That's what we heard out on the course.
How about that?
So, but the talk was Keegan Bradley. There was no doubt. As far as shoes, the talk was Keegan Bradley.
He dominated the shoe topics. Huh?
And I'm going to tell you who else. The shoe topic on Saturday, who caught everybody's attention and was styling and profiling. Jimmy Walker.
Really?
Jimmy Walker. He had on black patent leather golf shoes. I couldn't have gotten these things that shiny in my 10 years in the Air Force. Shining our shoes. These things were, the sun reflected off of them. I had to put my glasses on to look at them. Black patent leather, and he was styling, folks. He had the trim slacks. He had the legs cropped. He was styling and profile. And Jimmy Walker, real quick, Jeff, if I can just, I'll
Sure.
wrap it up on this. Guys, gals, listen to this. We follow these guys. We follow these girls on the tours. We have our impressions of just about everybody, and that's what's so much fun about following this sport is you develop relations that even in some people's minds is even personal. I look at the way these golfers interact, the way they handle their rounds, the way they psychologically and emotionally work their way around these major championships or even a regular tour stop like coming up this week at Heritage. One thing that stands out without question is you have those golfers that are either in the hunt or you have those golfers that are saying, just let me get through this round. Just get me off this property. Just let me go home and get on the couch. I saw several golfers, and I'll throw some names out, but I saw several golfers that could not have cared less whether they were at Augusta National on Sunday or not. And that was sad. It was really sad. And then there were several golfers that throughout their rounds, and I'm going to throw out one name, Matt Kuchar. That young man, he made it a point. I'll give you a story. Matt Kuchar walks off 13, just made birdie, and a good birdie at that because he didn't exactly have the best approach shot. Makes birdie. He comes over. There's two young boys standing at the corner of the fence line right over the players' bridge, that they come over to the 14th tee. Two young men standing there inside the ropes. Kuchar stops, hands one of them the ball that he just made the birdie with. Secondly, he reaches into his bag and hands the other one a ball. And then he reaches into his back pocket, gets his Sharpie, and signs both of them. This man is in the final round on Sunday at Augusta. And he takes the time on the course during his play to do that. You heard the sheer silence in the stands. There's easily 2,000 to 3,000 people around 14 green. You hear the sheer silence and you watch. And then when he signs both of them and hands the second one back to the young kid, everybody goes, oh. It was amazing. And then the Cooch started. Cooch. Yeah. It was, and you sat and watched them on 14. And folks, playing 14, it takes 278 yards to reach the crest of the hill. It takes 285 to bound over the top left side of the fairway and get the kick right that they're looking to get. 278 uphill. And yesterday, for example, the wind was in their face somewhat, coming left to right. Very small wind, couple of knots, but it was there. You could feel it. To a player in the Masters, they set up down the left-hand side, and every one of them hit a cut. Every one of them. If it went straight, they didn't catch it. And every person, including one Henrik Stenson, using the Frankenwood on Saturday, tees it up and flies that hill 285 with the 3-wood or a 12-degree Frankenwood. Phenomenal. I had to get a Q-tip and clear my ears out from the pop. Okay, it's so much fun to watch these guys. They just set up. They don't take a lot of time. There's a couple players that do take a lot of time, and one of them's Keegan Bradley. I don't know if it's the shoes or what, but Keegan, you sit and watch him start dancing around and jiggling and all that. Now, when he gets over the ball, he hits it. But you sit and watch him, and you're sitting there going, oh, my goodness, just hit the ball. But the rest of them, they make their club selections. They pull the gun. They pull the trigger. They set the hammer back, and they let it go.
Jordan Spieth is incredibly quick after he makes his decision, whether he's putting or whatever. He looks at it, he steps up, gets over the ball, and executes.
And you know, Jeff, that's part of confidence and emotion.
Yeah.
Mike made the comment of that in one of his interviews yesterday afternoon late, that last year they would talk over a shot, but Jordan still wasn't sure about it when he stood over it.
Yep.
This year, when they talked over every shot,
yep,
and when he stood over it, he went with the plan.
Yep.
Whether it worked out or not, he went with the plan. And you could tell that. You standing 3 feet away from him,
yeah,
you hear every word. And there's constant discussion of wind, variance, height, elevation change. You know, what quadrant of the green do we want this to land in?
Yep.
You know, that type of discussion, and he just went ahead and went with it. And then Jordan is fantastic for the viewers, the patrons at Augusta National, in the fact that he's very, very vocal immediately after the shot. Immediately. He hit 6-iron yesterday, and he was set up. He had about 190 in, and he's in the first cut. And he looks at his caddy and he goes, boy, I'm thinking 5. And Michael goes, no, it's 6. Go ahead and hit it and just flush it to that front left quarter. And, you know, just set it in there. It'll release. And then we'll be pin high with a 20-footer. Okay? And as soon as Jordan hit it, the ball hadn't even probably cleared the face yet. The grass is still flying up. As soon as he hit, he goes, I got it.
Huh.
That was his first words. I got it. And, poof. And we sat and watched it. It went out to the left. It came back right about 7 yards. It hit that front left quadrant, rolled out to the center part of the green. Now, there were some holes that Jordan got lucky on. Number 9, he was lucky twice. On Saturday, he pulls his approach shot with the 9-iron. It hits between the two bunkers, actually pops straight up in the air instead of releasing into the back bunker. It pops straight up in the air and then rolls back down toward the pin. You could see this from the fairway.
Huh.
And when he hit it, he went, oh, no. That was his first. Now, he could have very easily, I got that. It's perfect. No, they didn't want to be anywhere on those bunkers.
Yeah.
When he hit it, he goes, oh, no. And then he's still in his follow-through. The arms are still up here, and he goes, I shut it. He knew that he had shut it just ever so much to make that ball go straight versus fade.
Yep.
So it's amazing, folks. If you get the opportunity, absolutely do it. But if you don't, then, the coverage of the Masters is something we all look forward to every year. It's the Godfather's favorite event of the year. There's no doubt about it. We've talked about it a million times. But if you ever get the opportunity, go. If you just can only watch it, watch it. It is the second most watched sporting event in the history of television. The numbers repeat themselves every year, and the build-up and the drama that is the Masters for that particular year deserves every bit of the build-up and drama that comes, because some people claim that this was boring. Some people claim that this was a runaway. Some people claim that Jordan is not now the number 2 player in the world. You know what, folks? Get a life. Jordan Spieth went out wire to wire, spent 4 days playing the golf course within his capabilities. And thusly, he is a Masters champion. Will he win more majors? You doggone right he will.
Yeah.
You doggone right he will. This has been the Godfather, George Honeycutt, here at Monday Morning Golf Wrap. I want to say, hurry back, Hugh. I think he went to a doctor's or something today. But we'll be back with you next week to catch you up on the Heritage and several other events. TGD Radio and TV are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting The Golf Director, be sure to check out our featured course pages, where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much more. Need help with your next golf vacation? Just call Dave here at The Golf Director. You can give us a call at 844-GO-GOLF1. That's 844-464-6531. All of our programming is archived for listening and viewing on demand. To catch up on any show you may have missed, just click on the TGD Radio or the TGD TV tabs in the menu screen at thegolfdirector.com. We are now available on over 1 billion devices at iTunes, Audio Realm, TuneIn, YouTube, Ustream, Roku, Blueberry, and, of course, Myrtle Beach Golf app. This is George Honeycutt, and on behalf of Jeff behind the glass, we want to thank you for tuning in. There's more golf news and information coming up next.